Alright, this is a quick video around how having a second job can help you get out of debt. I've just finished my shift, 12-hour shift today, from a second job that I have on the weekend. And in my previous video, I was talking about how having a second job and working, an extra, I do an extra anywhere from 24 to 12 hours. So I might work a Saturday and a Sunday, or just one of those days during the weekend, and how that, gives me an extra. So how much I'll make off that? I make around £150 for a 12-hour shift. Saturday, Sunday rates go a bit different, but that's kind of around how much I make. If I work Saturday, Sunday, then I'll get around 350 quid, something like that. So yeah, and in my last video I was talking about how much this can really, really help you out if you're in a bad situation, or even if you just want to have money to go on holiday, if you want money to sorry, my windows are just open. If you want money to, get things, material things, even if it's like a musical instrument or a laptop, where you don't have to kind of rely on your main salary. The thing is, even if you work 9 to 5, if you earn average income in this country, let's say you're earning £28,000, maybe less, maybe more, even with that salary, maybe the majority of it's going on rent, bills, food. By the end of it, maybe you've got 500 quid left, maybe even less, depending on your circumstance. If you live at home, you live on your own, etc. But being able to pick up that part-time job, you can save for a holiday, get yourself out of debt, buy the clothes you want, invest in yourself, It's really, it really makes a difference. I think in this country, I can't remember the statistic, but a while back I was looking at how the average disposable income a household has at the end of the month, and this is probably looking at maybe families, but it was only around 250 quid, and that was after all bills were paid. And even then, like 50 quid a week, an extra 50, it's not really much to play around with, So if you can work a second job on top of that, you can really put yourself in a better position, And you obviously are sacrificing a weekend, like I do, a Saturday, Sunday, or a few evenings a week. But in the reality, realistically, unless you're someone who studies in the evenings, or you're kind of working on your own business or a skill, and you need those hours to kind of invest in that, that's understandable, to kind of give you that income in the future. But if you're not really even figured out what you want to do yet, might as well work while you figure it out and make some money for yourself. And depending on what your situation is, that extra money, if it's a 600 quid, 300 quid, even more, depends how hard you work, it can set you up. And I think one of the comments I got from someone was basically saying about how you manage your debt. So the main reason I started working 2 jobs is because I want to pay off some of my credit cards quickly and just really throw money out every week, 300 quid. And that's what I did. And what I basically did was, I would take my main income, I'd pay my bills, I'd pay, my rent, my food, my main necessities, and then everything left over from my main salary, I would just throw at my credit cards and then live off that part-time job. So every week, with my part-time job, I get paid every week, my main job I get paid monthly. So that 150 or 350 would come in at the end of each week, and that what I'd live on for the month, or I'd then throw more on my card. So if you're in debt, and this was mainly where the comment was around, for me, I hate being in debt. No one wants to be in debt, but if you work in a full-time job, realistically, you might be looking at like a year, 6 months, 2 years, depending on how much money you owe. It might take a long time, And no one wants to, live a minimalistic life where you can't go out and enjoy yourself and have to be worrying about money all the time. So my plan of execution was to kind of lock in, get 2 jobs, sacrifice the weekends, treat myself here and there, but just do that. I did that for around 6 months, and I was out of debt, coming from quite a few £1,000s in debt. So obviously financial literacy comes into that as well, being able to manage your money, because if you've got bad habits with money, it doesn't matter if you pay off your debt, they'll come back in again, and you'll easily put yourself back in debt. So it's more about, you've got to keep that in mind. You can be working hard and make a lot of money, but if your financial literacy is bad, then you'll put yourself back in debt, because those habits won't go away. So So yeah, again, if you're in debt, this is for, you know, the person who commented, get that second job. I'll really comment on what I do for my second job. Let's just say I work for the NHS in both of my jobs. I work in tech in my main role, and then I've got another role that's completely different on the weekends. But, you know, working at a bar, if you're young, why not? You know what I mean? It's sociable. If you're giving up your weekends, at least you're giving them up and being social, you know what I mean? And if you really think about it as an investment, especially if you get a really good part-time job, you know what I mean? You can learn and grow in that role, what's kind of different to your main role, and gain skills you wouldn't in your primary source of income, you know what I mean? And for me, my plan at the moment is to get a bit of money saved up and then ease off working on the weekends and kind of putting it into my craft, making YouTube videos, my skills, and upskilling myself. So yeah, that's kind of just a brief overview for the person who commented on my video. But yeah, that's how I'd attack it. I'd use my main income to obviously pay my bills, pay my necessities. Also, whatever's left over from that, for chuck at the credit card, then live off the part-time income. That's how I would go about it, go about doing it. And yeah, good luck.